What's up, family? Welcome to day 14. Day 14 of 31 Days of Encouragement in the month of December. So we're on day 14. And my hands are rusty. But, so y'all gonna have to see my rusty hands. Anyway, so today's encouragement is coming from, so today's encouragement is coming from Proverbs 14, verse 1, which says, "A wise woman builds her home, but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands." Here's what the Amplified version says. The wise woman builds her house on the foundation of godly precepts, and her household thrives. But the foolish woman, the one who lacks spiritual insight, tears hers down with her own hands by ignoring godly principles. So obviously, today's message is for women. For wives. Talking to wives today, I want to encourage you as we close out this year. There are some of you who think that you are wise, but you're acting foolish. Okay? You are tearing down your own marriage with your own hands. Now, the scripture says house, but we're going to talk about marriage. In other words, it's not your husband. It's not the kids. It's not even the side chick if there was one. But it could be your own efforts or lack thereof that's causing the problems in your marriage. Even if he was operating outside of God's will, your role is to be a wife. What kind of wife does a husband who is outside of God's will need? He don't need a complaining one. He needs a complimentary one. Not a punishing one. He needs a praying wife. So, as we look at this text, what are some ways? I want to share with you some ways that women tear down their own marriages with their own hands. Okay. So number one, we're going to get this one out the way up front. Y'all ready? Sex. Yeah. Disclaimer. I'm not about to talk about all the reasons and conditions why sex stops in marriage, whether they are legitimate or prideful. But in general, wives, as much as it depends on you, don't stop having sex with your husband. Like, don't stop having sex with your husband. Now, I know some of you may be saying, well, he's the one that's holding out on me. Well, then I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you, right? I'm talking to the wives who have good men. He may not be perfect, but he's a good man and he's trying, right? And the thing is this, sex isn't just for him. Like, God didn't create sex for men. We act like that sometimes, men and women. God did not create sex for men. He created sex for marriage. As a matter of fact, sex and marriage are so important that marriage is the only place that God approves for sex to happen. Okay? All right. So another way that women tear down their own marriages is by expecting their husbands to be like their dad. Listen, he is not your dad, and he never will be. Okay? Truth be told, your dad is your dad, not your husband. What I mean is, you don't know your dad. You only know your dad as dad. You don't know your dad as a lover. Right? You know your dad as dad. You only know him as father. You don't know him as a lover. So wanting your husband to treat you like the little girl that your dad did, man, it may not work out the way that you think. But here's my point. You may have unrealistic expectations if you expect your husband to do everything that your dad did, adore you the way that your dad did, right? To always show up the way your dad did. I know somebody's fighting and disagreeing with that one. I'm not saying that your standard was wrong, but I'm saying if your daddy is your standard and you did not choose that, then you need to change your standard. Okay, I'll say it in a way that's familiar to you. You have to divorce the fantasy in your head so that you can learn to love the stranger in your bed. He's not your dad. He's a good man, but not your dad. Learn to accept the person that you chose and build a life with him instead of trying to make him be somebody he's not. Okay? Because y'all do understand we plan our lives, and when you plan the future, there's only so much planning you can do when the future that you're planning is dependent on other people to help you bring the dream to pass, right? The future and life that you plan to live was not created with your partner in mind. Okay, so when the NBA teams, when they build teams, they choose people who fit well together and who have the skills to help them accomplish the goal that they've set. But some of you ladies, the first one who treats you nice, he's the one. Or as soon as he says, I go to church, you think he's a praying man. Just because he made you feel good doesn't mean he's the right one to lead you to your dreamland. But that's for single women. So for you wives, because that's for singles, for you wives, I'm saying accept the person that you married and get to know him. All right? Get to know him. So since I'm already out here stepping on toes, I might as well go ahead and say the S word. Y'all know what the S word is, right? Submission. Listen, marriage does not work without submission. As a matter of fact, marriage doesn't work without mutual submission, right? He submits to God, you submit to him. And again, this is not a deep dive on submission, okay? I understand that there are times and situations where submission may not be the right move. So, for example, don't follow your husband into sin like Sapphira did with Ananias, okay? But if your husband is doing the work to follow and be submitted to Christ, then you are to submit to him. Submission does not mean he's your boss. It doesn't mean that. And submission doesn't mean agreement also, right? If y'all agree, then y'all don't need submission. If you agree with your husband, then you don't have to submit to him. Okay? Does that mean that, he makes the decision and he's always right? No, don't mean that. And if he's wise, you both are making decisions. He's not a little dictator. Okay? But you ladies know, when you don't agree with something, you are quick to do things that make sense in your own eyes. Don't do that. Why? Because according to God's scripture, you will make more progress by being a silent woman of God sometimes. Not because you're weak, but because God can do what you can't do. Like go read First Samuel 25. Read about the story of Abigail and Nabal. Right? Abigail did not disrespect her husband. Her husband was a fool. He was an idiot. He was a dum-dum. But she didn't disrespect him. And she didn't let David kill him, but God did. Let things be in God's hands, right? So that's really all I have. That's all I have. But watch this. If I had one more, it would be this. Because I see this a lot. Wanting your husband to lead, but you won't allow him to lead. I see that a lot. A whole lot, right? Women will say, he's not leading. We start talking. Well, how do you want him to lead? I want him to, lead us in prayer. Okay. What else? Well, I want him to be the one to pick a church home. I want him to be the one to tell us when we go into church. I want him to be the one to wake us up. Those sound like parental roles to me. Don't sound like leadership. And so then when he wants to lead you though, babe, this is what I think we should do with our finances. I'm not doing that. I thought you wanted him to lead. You want him to lead the way you want him to lead. Don't say you don't, because you do. Because when we start talking about this leadership thing, I ask women, so what do you want him to lead in? And she gives me a list. I said, where do you think he was going to learn that at? Who leads like that? Usually they can't give me anybody. But even when they do, okay, great. But the person you chose, where he was going to learn that at? Who taught him? Nobody taught him. And you didn't teach him either. So you're going to be mad at him because his experience on the planet didn't teach him these specific leadership skills. Because he's leading. He's doing things, and maybe he got to grow. Do you know that marriage, so husbandry and wifeism, I don't know. husbands and wife, those roles, on the job training. Newsflash. Nobody's going to marry a great husband or a great wife. Not possible. If it's possible, somebody show me. Prove it. Prove it. It's not possible for you to marry a great husband or a great wife. Why? Because y'all don't even know each other. You become great in the marriage as you do it. So anyway, wives, stop tearing down your own home with your own hands. Okay? And again, this wasn't a deep dive on. I know there are a lot of different layers, and there are a lot of asterisks. I get that, but as much as it depends on you, be a wife. Okay? All right. I see y'all tomorrow with day 15.